I felt like this one was a bit long, and not in a bad way, but I felt that this was a long episode. And then looking at the runtime, it actually was. I was starting to feel like I was getting to that movie territory almost, which I liked. But what did you think, Matt? What did you think of the episode?
Well, real quick, just on the thing, because we had talked about this, and we've been talking about it all season. Small Folk, by the way, they just posted the title of it, is what it's called.
Love it.
Which I thought the episode would be called Dragon Seeds, but I guess not. But by the way, they released the run times, and the last 2 episodes are all over like 70 minutes. So this season, you remember that's one of the things that was talked about was, they're cutting it down to 8 episodes. We said we know we're getting a few longer episodes. I think you might have 2 full episodes in there just from the extra run times.
Yeah,
certainly more than 1. So it's really like maybe 9.5 episodes, because it's not like the 50-minute episodes Game of Thrones was.
mm-hmm.
So if you look at it, I mean, it might be 9.5. I mean, it's just, they're doing it in longer episodes rather than more episodes.
Yeah, and I think that you're starting to see kind of like maybe the idea behind it outside of budget, by the way. Budget's a huge thing where they divide episodes up because they're going to shoot in certain locations for whatever. And, you can have more budget per episode, which tends to be very useful when it comes to those big battle scenes. And I do think the CGI for the dragons and stuff this season has been better. But, one thing I'm starting to feel, there's so many characters, dude. Like there's so many things that
at
are
least
happening.
now we're feeling more weight of those extra characters like we did in this episode.
So many characters, and there's a lot of stuff that isn't ironed out enough to where I feel like we can do the Game of Thrones thing where we cut away to like a 10-minute scene with like Corlys and his sons. Or maybe you could, but there is a feeling that they want to make sure they're touching on bases as we go through the episode. And one of the things that I actually like about this approach is they are still doing a really nice job of thematically connecting these things, but also making us compare the sides. Like this episode, there's a clear separation between the Regent and his Master of Whispers, Larys, whereas Rhaenyra is clearly getting very close to her Master of Whispers. So
Massaria, man, she's just saying, you know what? I'll go after King and Queen.
Huge character and much more added. But see, like those scenes are quick, but they are connected, so that makes the episode feel like it has a little bit more unity. But I'm definitely feeling just how many ways we're being pulled, and the more I watch, the more I realize that this is a ridiculously difficult adaptation to do. To try to stay as loyal as they can. While obviously adding stuff in because of the sparse detail we get in Fire and Blood. But this episode was all over the place, not in a bad way, but like we went with about everybody that you could imagine other than maybe Otto on the screen. But I was into this episode the entire time, dude. I felt the runtime, but it wasn't a bad feel. It was kind of like, man, we're getting all this stuff. This is great. And there was 3 or 4 times where I felt the episode could have ended and I would have been happy. Specifically, Larys and Aegon's conversation, I thought was going to be the closing scene because I don't look at my watch, so I don't know what the time is going to. But I'm like, oh, this is the final scene. And then it kept going, and I was like, oh, I kind of like that scene. Oh, I kind of like this scene. And it just kept going, and I was like, God, dude, this is a crazy show that they've set out to make. But I found myself really into this episode. I know it's a slower one. Last week was the most tumultuous episode so far in season 2, maybe in the show's history so far, in House of the Dragon at least. But I don't know, dude. This to me felt really good. This is the same person who did Lord of the Tides, which is the highest rated episode for season 1. And I thought a lot of the shots were really cool. There was a lot of moving shots during the dialogue of the small council where you could kind of almost feel the tides shifting a little bit as Aemon like really asserts himself. Just like little things like that. The dragons like snoring in the background of Rhaenyra scene with Massaria. Like, I don't know. I was very immersed in this episode, even though obviously, this is kind of setting the road up to these final 2 episodes.